This is a 1997 Fender Jazz bass, made in Mexico, 5-string bass. It is stock. As far as I know, there's never been modifications done to it. I recently got it in a trade, and I'm not happy with the tone and volume knobs. So the tone is quite dark, and the volume has a nice taper, but it really darkens the sound super quick. So here's what that sounds like. I'm gonna start with the tone. I'm at 5. Back to 10, and now to 0. So back to 10. So that's the tone knob. Is it usable? Yeah, I mean, you can definitely use it. Not my favorite. I'm gonna go to the bridge and I'm gonna lower the volume at about 8. Then I'm gonna go down to 5 and back up to 10, just so we can hear the taper in the volume, but also whether it remains clear or it darkens. So as you can hear, just from 10 to 8, there's quite a drastic dip in the volume, and it does darken a bit. Is that usable? For some people, it will be usable. For me, I don't want such a drastic drop in volume. I'll show you with distortion what it sounds like. So I have the Grizzly bass from Creation Audio Labs. So I'm going to kick that in. I'm using the HX Stomp. I have the Woody Blue as the amp, and then I have the 115 Ampeg bass cab, just so I can get a pretty classic bass tone out of it. So that's at 8. So that's just the bridge. I'm going to show you the neck real quick. Eight. Is it usable? As I said, it is. However, it's not what I'm expecting from it. So what I'm going to do is just basically go over this instrument, make sure everything is fine. I'm having issues with the pickups here where I try to get them to be closer to the strings, and these pickups seem to only raise the screw and not the pickup itself, which is really weird. So I'm going to have to go over that. But once all of this is done, I'm going to show you the install. So I'm going to put it on my workbench. I'll show you the install. I'll let you know if I ran into any snags. I'll give you an estimate of how long I think the whole process is to upgrade this. Obviously, I don't have to take off the pick guard for the upgrade. I only need to take off this control plate. So this should be easier than the P-Bass, which I have right over here. And I'm also doing an install of the harness from ObsidianWire. So if you want to watch that video, I'm going to link it right here in the cards. Or if you stay until the end of the video, I'm going to have it at the very end of the video as well. I'm upgrading the Jazz bass. I'm upgrading the P-Bass with the ObsidianWire kits that are made for each of these basses. I'll let you know what to expect in terms of volume. We're going to do essentially the same test with the HX Stomp and the overdrive pedal. And we'll see if it's a better upgrade towards the things I was talking about, like a more linear sweep so it doesn't fall off so much in terms of volume, and also retains that clarity. And is the tone knob going to be better on their kit than what I have stock with the Mexican bass? So let's go find out. All right, so it's on the workbench. I'm going to clean up the bass. I'm going to condition the fretboard, take care of the frets, make sure they're nice and polished. Have a look underneath the control plate, and I'll show you. I'll start filming from the control plate so you can see what it looks like underneath. I'll show you the kit I had from ObsidianWire. I'll show you the install, let you know what snags I run to. I usually run into snags because I'm not the best at this stuff, but I can still show you what that looks like. So I'm going to show you the harness before, the one after, and then we're going to do the volume sweep for both pickups and then the tone sweep, and I'll let you know whether this was a worthy upgrade. You have CTS pots. There is a capacitor over here, which I can't read because I'm old. So I'll try to get a close-up on that, but that's on the tone pot. And then the jack output, so everything is good. There's like no issues technically, so I'm going to be able to just remove this and not have to worry about it. Obviously, I'm going to take care of the ends of these cables so that they can go into the new harness without any issues. I've taken this off, but this is my first time working with a jazz bass. I kind of expected the whole thing to be hollow, but it's not. So technically, I didn't even need to do this. Then I'm going to put on some string joy strings. They are 45 to 125. This is their 5-string set. And after that, I'm just going to check the pickups, make sure everything's fine. We'll do the sound test, and I'll let you know what my thoughts are. Okay, so instead of soldering these cables off, I just clipped everything off. I may use these maybe in a different build at some point. You never know. So I'm going to keep them aside. But for right now, here is the ObsidianWire kit. So I'm going to grab this. All right. Oh, hello. This is Maple.
Oh, yes, you're very nice, yes.
Okay, so everything fits in. No issues there. I have the exposed ground cable that comes to the bridge. That is most likely going to go in here. So they have this little part right there where you just unscrew it, put the cable through, screw it back in, and you're good to go. And then these for the 2 pickups. So pretty simple. So I'm going to get back to you once everything is solidified here, and then I'm going to show you how easy it should technically be to put 5 wires here. So in this box over here, you're going to find this little envelope that has all the washers and nuts and everything that you're going to need. So I've installed everything already on here. All that's left now is to make those connections. So I'm going to strip those little cables here. So hopefully I can zoom in. So because I clipped the cables, I have no cable here or no bare wire that I can actually insert into these slots. So basically it's going to be like this. You force it in, the little pin goes in recesses, and then you have a secure connection. All you have to do is kind of wiggle it around. If it pops out, then you didn't have a good connection. So I'm going to strip all these wires, and I'm going to be right back. And hopefully with the little camera over here, you're going to be able to see how easy it is to get everything connected. Okay, so as we can see here, the neck pickup is going to be the first 2 rails, and then the bridge pickup is going to be the next 2. So if you hear some squeaking, that's my dog in the back playing with her dog toys. So that's the ground. That's the little connection I was saying that we're going to be connecting to. So let's have a look here. It's super simple. So what we're seeing, and I'm going to use a screwdriver here. So this part over here is actually this part right there. So the neck would be these first 2. So that's going to be your hot and then your ground, and then for the bridge, it's going to be the hot and then your ground. So ground always comes to the left and hot is going to be to the right. So I'm going to connect the bridge to this whole part over here, then the neck and bridge. Super simple. You just follow the diagram. Now, if we have a look over here at the bare wires, I've exposed quite a lot of it, but not too much because I don't want these cables to touch one another. But I'm going to come back in. I know that this is the neck, and these 2 over here are the bridge pickup, and that little black cable right there, that's the one that's connected to this bridge right over here. So it should be, in essence, super simple to do. You just have 4 places where you can connect the pickups and the 1 ground. And that's it. Now, because the ground connection from the bridge is so short, I'm going to keep that at the very end, and then I'm just going to screw it in. But for right now, I know that this is my neck, and towards the left is my bridge. if the bare cable here is black and this is ground, I'm going to assume that it should be the same thing with the Fender pickups. So the neck, which is this guy, is going to go over here. Now, I've found that sometimes it's just depending on the quality of these wires, like these bare wires are very, very solid, but I've seen some where they kind of come undone. They're all over the place. Then you got to twist them. You have to use something like a soldering iron, put some tin on it so that it remains straight. But then if you end up with a blob of soldering on the end, it's not going to fit in here, so you're going to have to cut that off. That's happened to me more than once. Getting back to this diagram, the neck is going to be over here. So that's the ground and that is the hot. So basically, I should be able to just slip this in and push it down. And there you go. I have a solid connection. Now, I've found that if you use something like a toothpick, or if you have a very small screwdriver, you can push in the, let me try and get this over here. You can push in these pins. Hopefully we can see, but you just basically come in and push down, and this should relieve the tension and help you push it in. But I've found that some of these wires, depending on the company, some of them are so soft that just trying to get it in there doesn't work. So you may have to be super patient if that's the case. Now over here, I'm feeling some resistance, but I think I have it. No, you see, I pushed it back and that did not work. So the first one worked really well. I'm going to try and push it down with this pin over here. Okay, solid all around. So now I'm going to turn this guy this way. So now the trick is to unscrew this post. Okay, so I'm going to poke this guy through, make sure there's enough bare wire to grasp onto. Now you don't have to go super tight with, see where it's snug should be good. I'm going to test that connection. So this is good. Always double check everything before I put it back into the cavity. So that looks good to me. And here we go. So essentially now I should have a functional harness. I'm going to put that in there. All right, so for this part, it's quite simple. All you need to do is just check whether you have some signal. So you could use a screwdriver or anything that's metallic and will react with a magnet. There we go. Now, I don't know why the neck is overpowering the bridge in terms of volume, but that has nothing to do with the harness. It was doing that before. So I don't know if maybe someone took a magnet here at some point and degaussed this bridge pickup, or if just naturally over the years that's what happened. But I know that this neck pickup is a little louder than this guy. So eventually, if I decide to make a pickup swap with this harness, it should be a simple affair. So this is what it looks like now. I have these knobs I took off of a guitar pedal. The posts are a bit large, so the original knobs that I had on this did not fit in. So I had to use these knobs here. They use a little screw here at the back. So the opening is a little wider on these, and you just have to use this screw right there just to fit it in nice and tight on the post. So yeah, the whole base is ready. I'm gonna put some strings on here, and the next step is going to test both volume knobs and the tone and see if I like what I hear. So I have the harness installed in the Jazzmaster. I'm going to be telling you what I think I'm hearing, but first we're going to be listening to it, and then we can see if what I'm hearing and what you're hearing is pretty much compatible. We're going to start off with the volume on the, well, I guess it's not really the neck, it's in the middle, but it's closer to the neck, so we're going to call it the neck position. Then the bridge, both together, and then we're going to listen to the tone. I'm going to kick in the distortion at some point. So we're going to start off with the clean tone. I'm still using the same rig as I was at the beginning of this video. So let's start with the clean tone. So the neck, you're going to hear a bit of buzz because I have lights going on, and these are single coil. Right now I'm at 5. So when you see, hopefully you can see from that distance, but right now I'm at about 5, and I'm still hearing a lot of volume, and I still have a lot of that brightness left, so it's not getting dark and muffled. So this is about like 1.5. Moving on to the bridge pickup, full on. About 8 o'clock. So obviously when you combine both pickups together, you get that humbucking effect, but you also get a bit of scoop in the mids. So that's where we're going to be using the tone, and you hear that difference. Oops. So now the tone is completely rolled off at this point. So now I'm going to roll it up to about 2, 5, 8, and then 10. Hopefully you can hear the same thing I'm hearing. As I decrease the volume, I'm not getting like a drastic dip in volume. It's a little more linear. And the tone also works the same way. It's not too drastic. I'm enjoying this so far, especially with the clean, but now what I'm going to do is kick in the distortion. Obviously, I'm not trying to amaze you with my talent as a bass player. I'm not going all over the place, because the point is to play something familiar. So something that's going to be repetitive, and then I just lower the controls, and we can hear, hopefully, the contrast between wide open and the effect of these pots on your tone. So I'm going to kick in the distortion. So hopefully you can hear the same thing I'm hearing. When I roll off to about 8 on the tone, I still have that articulation without having that piercing high end that's almost like a whistle, if you will. So I'm going to go wide open and to about 8 o'clock. So you still have high end, but it's just rolling off some of the nastiness on top, which I find a little more usable, or way more usable actually, than what I had with the EMG kit. I'm just going to go each pickup now, do the same thing, volume test, tone test, and then I'm going to conclude with my opinion if you care to hear it, until I'm going to keep that at the end of the video. And I'll let you know what I think the pros and cons are of a kit like this and who I think it's for. Let's go with the neck pickup volume test. So with the distortion, I'm hearing that that last maybe 10-15% has a little more of a drastic effect compared to the clean, which I don't really understand why it works that way, but that's what I'm hearing at least. So I'm going to do that again. I'm just going to roll off to about 8 or 7 and just listen to that volume. If there's a big shift in the volume, either a drop or more of a sweet kind of smooth roll off, if you will. It's way smoother than what I had originally, but with distortion and fuzz, that effect might be a little more drastic compared to when you go clean. Moving on to the bridge. So I'm going to kick in the distortion again. Now, if you stuck around until the end of the video, thank you so much. I'm going to be giving you my impression of this kit, telling you who I think it's for. Also going to be talking about the pros and cons of a kit like this. Let's start with the pros and cons. I would say that the pros definitely outweigh the cons for me, because the cons they're kind of minor. Unless for you, it's like the make or break point. The pros would be that you end up with a harness that's easy to install and uninstall different pickups. So if you're in a phase where you're looking for a specific tone, you need to get that pick guard off, or maybe just swap out the pickups, but you don't want to solder and unsolder every single time you're trying out pickups, this is a great kit to do that. Second, if you're not too comfortable with your own soldering job, or you don't want to pay someone else to do it, and some people, you know, they can charge quite a lot of money for their time and their expertise. So sometimes a soldering job that takes barely 10 minutes can cost you hundreds of dollars. Perhaps you don't want to go down that route. There's also the fact that if you have a pickup in your bass and you install this harness, but you always keep in mind that maybe at some point your taste may change and you may want to try something different, you always have that option there where you can do it yourself. So there's that do-it-yourself kind of slant on these harnesses that I really like. It takes someone like me that's not super good at soldering. There's also the fact I have a tremor in this hand, so whenever I'm trying to hold something still and I go to solder and this hand is shaking, that can just ruin the solder joint. And that really sucks. That means that I get frustrated, I get flustered by the experience, and seriously, it's really not a fun time for me. I still struggle with that with this hand. At least a soldering joint isn't being compromised because I'm shaking, so I can get that wire in there at some point. And it usually takes me far less time doing that than doing the soldering stuff. So if you don't like soldering, if you don't want to rely on someone else to do the install for you, if you want to be able to have the option to modify your bass moving forward, or if you need to try multiple pickups within like a short span of time and you just need to drop them in, take them out, and put something else in there, this is a great option. The second thing that I think is a pro with this one is that I really like the concept that with the treble bleed mod on here, I can roll back the volume and still keep the clarity. There's nothing I hate more, especially with a bass, that isn't super clear to begin with, where you roll off the volume and now you have just this muffled sound, which is, for me anyways, it's not usable. That means having to find alternative means to lower the volume, and you don't get the same dynamic out of the instrument. The tone, I really like the concept that you can roll back and it doesn't completely kill the articulation when you're playing. And then even if you roll off completely, you don't have this big weird bump in the mids that make you sound like you have some kind of wah or EQ on there. It sounds a little more natural in terms of the high-end roll-off. It's just a great kit. You can feel it whenever you play with the tone and volume here. It feels smooth, but it still feels sturdy. It's not, I've had kits before where you could like in a second just turn everything off because it rolled off way too fast. There was no resistance. And the other kits I've also used before, there was too much resistance. It didn't feel natural. It wasn't a natural feel under the finger. When it comes to cons, as I mentioned, to me, they're not a big deal. To someone else, they could be. One is the treble bleed mod. There's no switch to select between having it and not having it. So if you use pedals that are super sensitive on impedance, or if you have something like silicon or germanium in your pedal and you go to roll off and that treble bleed is just keeping too much high end, making things sound harsh, and the volume is not going down the way you expect it, that could be a problem. I don't know that many players that play vintage style pedals like that. I'm sure there are scenarios where that could happen. That could be a detriment if you're expecting it to behave like a typical modern type of harness. The other thing that could be a con with this is if you like to solidify everything with soldering. So if you're not too much into swapping pickups all the time and you just want something fixed and you want that pleasure of soldering stuff yourself, something like this might not be something you look at. I know there's a belief out there that a soldering joint gives you the most pure tone imaginable, and I don't know anything about that, so I really can't comment. But I figure if I'm not hearing a difference in terms of the overall tone, I'm just hearing a difference with the interaction between the pots, that's good enough for me. But for someone who's more of a traditionalist, a kit like this might not be their thing. But those are really the only cons I could think of, but I'm always open to hearing your own pros and cons of a kit like this in the comments section down below. If you have any questions, please let me know. And in the meantime, I've also modified my P-Bass. If you want to see that, it's a Squier P-Bass. I paid next to nothing for it, and I ended up putting a harness from ObsidianWire in there, and the results, they're quite surprising. So if you want to hear that, you can click right over here, and there's another video appearing on screen in case you want to watch that one. So in one way or another, I'm going to see you in the next one, hopefully. Cheers.